Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 2 of the anime series, The Perfect Insider, or as I like to call, everything becomes effed up. This episode, my God, if you caught my episode 1 First Impressions video, I talked very much about how that first episode felt disconcerting. There was something about it, almost an eeriness to it and a very just off-putting vibe to it. It was like challenging my own perception of it as I'm watching it. And I didn't know if a lot of the sort of intellectual back and forth, waxing intellectual, if you will, was just trying very hard to be coming from an intellectual, viewpoint, or if it was actually trying to explore these different philosophical ideas. And this episode feels much more straightforward, much less abrasive and off-putting until certain things happen in the episode. Of course, we're seeing Nishina Sono and Saikawa and, a whole group of students basically going to Himako Island as they were going to do, or they said they were going to by the end of the previous episode, as, I guess, set up by Nishina Sono herself. And we see her arriving in her sort of very posh, sort of race car almost. I don't know if that thing's even street legal. But whatever. She pulls up in it, and then, of course, the butler is following in another car with all of her luggage. She even bringing ice cream for everybody and everything. She wants to have a proper vacation, a party, something like that. Whereas Saikawa, of course, we know he's just interested in having a one-on-one with this woman, Magata, that he so idolizes, and he's talking about, should I get her autograph? It's just like, okay, again, it was much more sort of like almost letting your hair down kind of a vibe. I was enjoying it, but it was like, what is the point? Once again, I was kind of struggling to find the point where we were going with all of this, much like the first episode. And a lot of it is very much Nishina Sono trying to sort of just get with Saikawa, even though she is almost 20, she's legal age, but he is oblivious. He doesn't have those interests, or if he does, it's buried deep down within. He's not showing it. He's much more, showing stoicism in the face of her advances and all this kind of stuff. I don't know if it's disinterest or whatever it is, but she's definitely coming across, and he's not really taking the bait, so to speak, and of course, that's just touching upon other themes that then end up being involved in this episode. Very discomforting sort of things. The Lolita-esque thing where it's like, pedo bear alert, man, when we're flashing back on Magata as a 13-year-old, and I guess this narrator is her uncle, I guess. Maybe. At least that's what she refers to him as, and he's her caregiver, and we see this flashback coinciding with, Nishina Sono and Saikawa's trying to go to the facility on the island where Magata is being contained. She's been contained for 15 years. She has not stepped out of the room they have her in. And I'm still a little unsure, I'm uncertain as to whether this was something she put herself into, or if people, she's actually considered to be incarcerated and there are people keeping a watchful eye on her. I'm not entirely sure what all of that, how that all plays out, because she's definitely not in sort of a prison, a law enforcement facility, or as I assumed, a sort of like criminal asylum situation. This is just a scientific facility, it seems to be, with a lot of advanced technology, AI, and, sort of remote control robotic systems and all that kind of stuff. And so that's intriguing. I'm not sure why she's there, who put her there, if she's there of her own volition. I think we can pretty much expect by the end of the episode she probably wants out to a point. But again, with these flashbacks, it's coinciding with Nishina Sono's just bang on and on and on, trying to put her feelings for Saikawa out there. She starts rifling off all these things she wants to see and experience. And it's intercut with the 13-year-old Magata also talking about all these things she wants to experience. Sort of strange things, taking the time. I referenced 1 hour photo in my episode 1 discussion video. Little would I suspect that it was somewhat dead on in the fact that this character, much like Sai the photo guy in 1 hour photo, if you've never seen the film, he would take pictures of things that the average person took for granted. A doorknob, a faucet, a leaky faucet, whether, it leaked or not, but like shower curtain rings and all these things that are in our day-to-day life, but nobody ever stops to take the time to acknowledge and just takes for granted. And in a sense, that kind of is the vibe I'm getting from 13-year-old Magata in this car with her, air quotes, uncle, in talking about the things she wants to see and experience. I don't want to say it's unnatural, but it definitely gives us an insight into her perspective of the world is not an average one, put it that way. And we kind of sort of hear Nishina Sono in present time, talking to Saikawa as they're on the beach and they're going to be making their way to the facility, uttering very similar, sentences and phrases about things she wants to see and descriptions of the beach. And he's like, well, you can't really see it at night, but, it's right there. Again, oblivious. And I don't know if she's channeling Magata. I don't know if that's meant to imply there's some stronger definition and connection between she and Magata, if she's just saying, sort of parroting things she's heard Magata say in her encounter with her. And we find out that whole situation, that whole thing was filmed and it's been made public, I guess, or at least, people within the facility can watch the entire back and forth questioning that we caught glimpses of in episode 1. We see a little more in this episode. And that's telling because, of course, Nishina Sono's kind of freaked out by that, but I guess she wanted to keep certain aspects of that conversation secret. I don't think we've seen it in its entirety. I think that was the point of letting us know and showing us further clips in this episode. I think there's more to this discussion, and maybe we'll see more of that as episodes continue on. How deep down the rabbit hole does it go? Were they picking each other's minds? Is there some other manipulation going on? Why is it Magata has interactions only through computer screens and cameras and, sort of live streaming feeds and all that kind of stuff? There was a part of me that started to speculate, because of all the highfalutin technology in this place, how do we know this isn't some kind of like AI? She's dead in some room somewhere, killed herself, and her last act was programming an AI to be very much interactive on a human scale and everything. And it's not so much that the person, the woman Magata, is incarcerated or being held in this room. How do we know it's an AI that can't escape because that's where the system is contained? Probably not. I'm probably entirely way off. But it was one intriguing line of theory and speculation that did occur to me watching this. And again, the dialogue going back and forth in that flashback and the narration of this old man, again, pedo bear alert, man. She's talking about, she asks him in the car, what did you tell your wife? Oh, I told her, a friend's father died. I'm going to the memorial, She's like, what's the wife going to do? What's she say? Oh, well, she's going to be out for the night. And then she goes and caresses his hand on the gear shift in the car. And she's like really just pouncing on that hand and making this facial expression that just is like, I don't know, don't go there, please. Where then he starts talking toward the end of the episode as we're falling on from that scene. He's feeling things that he doesn't necessarily think are good things to be feeling. And he's not sure what to make of it. He's not sure what that inner turmoil is, wanting to touch her, wanting to, it's like, really? Really? We're going there? There's all kinds of F. Everything becomes F. Now you know where that title came from. Or at least that's my guess. And, but then it takes another sort of twist as finally Nishina Sono and Saikawa. Nishina Sono is using this excuse that she has a headache. She's trying to get in with the guy who sort of runs the overnight aspect of the facility, as I guess the caretaker of it took off in a helicopter, air quotes. We didn't see who was leaving and such. And there is this talk about, well, Magata has a younger sister that hasn't been made public, and this, caretaker guy's going to get her. And then I started to wonder if this flashback sequence was actually, calling over to somebody having picked up and, bringing the younger sister. But then through the dialogue at the end of the episode, no, it's in fact Magata as she was younger, not making it any better or more palatable. But when they're in this facility, after this guy finally figures out, oh, Nishina Sono was just Josh, and, she wants to hang out with Magata, have another one-on-one. And the power starts fluctuating, like all the systems start tripping, the lights are going on and off and all this stuff, and they're debating, should we go in and you know, because nobody has apparently been in and out of that room without the director's say for that 15 years. Even the security guard's like, are you sure you want to go in there? And then it's out of their hands entirely. They don't even get to decide. This all because they haven't heard from her in hours. You know, they don't get to decide because suddenly, with the power fluctuations, all of a sudden those doors start opening on their own. And this is where it gets mad trippy, because at first they think they're seeing sort of a living, life-sized doll version of Magata wearing what looks to be a sort of wedding gown, you know, and really red lipstick and looking, I don't know, she's very enigmatic and mysterious and mind-bending, because she doesn't seem to have natural movements. And then we find out, well, she's not moving naturally because she's sitting on top of one of these little automated robot delivery tray things. And here's what really bent my mind. You know, you have the guy start screaming to the AI Deborah, to the system, the subsystem, whatever it is, to lock down these little automated robot delivery tray things. Nobody decides to go tackle her. I mean, she's right there. You have legs. You walked into the room. Go grab her. You know, are they afraid she's packing a weapon? She's been locked in this room for 15 years, other than maybe having, you know, sort of sporks every now and then when she has to eat food, if she consumes anything. Surely she's not packing a knife or a weapon of some kind. Tackle the bitch. And we just leave off with, like, the meltdown stopped for just a split second. You know, it's like the system says it's going to stop it for one minute. And here they all are, and the screen goes black. And it's just like, okay, things just got a hell of a lot more interesting. You know, Magata's out on the prowl. This woman who apparently has a very twisted, dark back history. Killed her parents, blamed it on a doll, been incarcerated for 15 years. She hasn't even breathed outside air that isn't funneled in through the pipelines in this particular facility. God only knows what she's been doing in there. You know, she is a product of high intellect and sciences and discoveries and all these kinds of things. What exactly is she doing in there? And I did mention in my episode 1 discussion video, there's a point where there was a virus in the computers that Saikawa was, you know, he walked out of the room on Nishina Sono to go investigate and figure out. And I did speculate, is there going to be some level of that, some kind of tech hacking thing going on? Magata seems to certainly have that capability, because I can only assume it was her that turned the entirety of, you know, the wiring of this facility completely topsy-turvy so she could get out of that room. And why now? Like, you know, does she know Nishina Sono was coming? Is there something between them? Is Nishina Sono, you know, bringing Saikawa purposely? Yet in the first episode, because of Saikawa's interest in Magata, I had assumed, what if he and Magata were playing Nishina Sono for some reason? This episode leaves me wondering if it's in fact the other way around, where Magata and Nishina Sono have their sort of interests. I mean, is there any chance Nishina Sono could have been Magata's younger sister? You know, because they seem very similar. And we hear that this director's going to find the sister, but because it's not public information, how do they know? How do they know it's not something like, you know, there's something more complex going on? I would have to assume, you know, you'd have to make a lot of sort of leaps of faith to add up with that. Things wouldn't quite add up that way so easily with Saikawa having a familiarity with Nishina Sono. You know, I doubt it's like the single white female thing, if you've ever seen that film, where somebody can embody the other person, make themselves look exactly like them and all that kind of stuff, and sort of assume their life. I don't think something like that's going on necessarily, but with whomever, you know, this younger sister is, and Nishina Sono, that is to say. But I mean, this episode, it was just like, it started out kind of average, and it was really just kind of like, what's the point? What's going on? We see a lot of Nishina Sono's trying to make the moves on Saikawa. We see how this is intertwined and interspersed with flashbacks to Magata as a 13-year-old, making the moves on what we hear her refer to as her uncle. He's getting sort of enticed by it. It's like, ew. And this leads to what is supposed to be a sort of penultimate confrontation with Magata, and Magata's trying to escape. It's like, you know, Joker in Arkham Asylum. You can't keep him contained with this chick. And so I don't know, again, I don't know WTF is going on. I'm intrigued. It's enough for me to want to keep watching and see if there is a point where they're going with it. But at the same time, it's just like, I can't really parse through if there's a sense to be made. I think it's one of those things where every step of the way, every episode, we're going to see inklings and hints to the grander scheme. But until we get to its culmination, are we going to be incapable, probably, of understanding it? We can theorize, we can speculate. It's a lot of what I'm going to be doing watching it. And I would love to go back and forth in the comments with you guys. Any speculations you have, any reactions you have, love it or hate it. You know, as always, love having the conversation. But I mean, I don't even know where to begin with this episode. I don't know where to end with this episode. It's just like, okay, see what happens next time. And so, yeah, that's really all I got to say on this one. As I say, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below. If you've seen episode 2 of The Perfect Insider, everything becomes effed up as all hell. And, yeah, that'll be it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well. And I'll catch you all later. Peace.